Welcome to your next assignment. Now, I just put you through the ringer, giving you a crash course in lighting in 3D and how lights work, how you can use lights, and how so much of how you use lights in CG directly is borrowed from techniques and methods used in real-world lighting situations, specifically studio lighting setups. So you're going to be tasked with creating 4 renders, 4 product shots of this really awesome shoe model. Okay, so you can see in this project file, everything's already textured, doesn't have any colors, fairly drab as far as materials go, and that's for a reason, because you're gonna let this model shine with lighting. Because if you have good lighting, it doesn't matter if you have 0 textures applied at all, you can make an object look really good, even if it's a simple sphere that's completely untextured. So no little fancy materials are going to be the lipstick on the pig in this assignment. So what you're going to have is the shoe model, and you're going to take it. It's already textured. You don't have to do anything to it. You just got to light it. And another thing you have to do is add a camera and choose your composition here. So you can choose your own composition. I definitely highly recommend that you use different inspiration. Go and find your own mood boards if you want to as far as composition goes. Also remember, in each Redshift camera, if you go to the display tab here, you can turn on compositional helpers. So you can turn on the grid and use the rule of thirds. If you don't know any of that, definitely look up your rule of thirds, all that kind of stuff, golden ratio, look that stuff up, because that's going to help you apply those design principles to the world of 3D. So you can choose your own composition, or you can, if you're feeling up to it and you are feeling really good, you know how to light a single object and you want a greater challenge, I created 4 other project files for you that are more of like cohesive scenes. So here's kind of a little bit of a step up. This shoe model unlit double, it's just 2 shoes flipped upside down. So if you want to tackle that in like 2 shoes at the same time, you can totally do that. I also have this shoe model unlit rocks file that has this really cool rock texture, again, already applied to these rocky landscape objects. And this will allow you to not only light a shoe, but light a floor as well. So if you're feeling up to that and you want to give yourself an extra challenge, here's that scene file for you. Here's another scene file that just has some shiny spheres. Again, everything's already textured. Everything's going to be very grayscale here. Not to have a pun of Grayscale Gorilla, but everything's going to be very grayscale. So again, you can introduce colors via lights, bounce cards, all that kind of stuff. So here's another scene if you want to take on lighting a more fuller scene. And then we also have this other shoe composition that is resting on a little bit of cloth here. Okay, and the cloth is already textured. So again, each of these files, if you choose to use them, you only have to worry about lighting because the texturing's already done. Now, as far as the 4 different renders you will be making, they will be based off of 4 different types of lighting setups, and they are based off of these mood boards here. So I have some mood board images that we will provide you. And the first one, the first type of lighting setup I want you to try to recreate is this lighting setup here, where it's very high contrast, it's dramatic, it's pretty sleek, it looks high end. And I want you to try to think about, when you're looking at all these mood boards, even when you're looking at mood boards and references on your own, I want you to try to look at an image like this and try to think about, where are the lights? Where did this artist put the lights? And try to think about that. Like, is this a rim light here to get that? Is this just one single light that's in the back here? So I want you to think about that, as well as, did this artist use a background? What color is that background? Did it use a bounce card? Did it use a flag to block lights? So you can try to think about, I want you to develop an eye for picking apart lighting setups, and that will really influence and help you in your own lighting setups here, okay? So here is the next type of setup that I want you to try to recreate, the next type of lighting setup I want you to recreate. And this is using very vibrant colors, even looks a little sci-fi with the pink hair with this model here, and using colored lights, so complementary lights at that. So you can see we're using complementary blue and orange, again to simulate like daylight, and the sky kind of hue that we get cast onto the real world. So you can even use different colors if you want it to look a little bit more sci-fi. So think purple, green. Think about those different complementary colors that look kind of alien. Another thing I want you to keep in mind is, again, thinking about where the lights are. And with models, human models, the eyes are a dead giveaway to see where the positioning of the lights could be for a specific setup. So you can see, okay, there's this orange light here, and there's a little bit of a blue fill or something over here on this side of the eye. So think about that. You also see a little bit of that Rembrandt lighting where you get this little triangle on the cheek. Another thing I want you to kind of point out is, again, taking all those techniques and setups that I mentioned before and picking them apart, calling them out. So remember the 70-30 rule where you light something 70% and the other 30% of your model. So here you can see that 70-30 rule in practice where you have 30% of this model lit with this orange and then the other 70% in this blue. Okay, so I was saying the 70-30 rule with shadow and light, or light and shadow. Here you can do different color combinations. So definitely think about how you can apply all those different techniques to not only light and dark, but different hues and different colors. And then here's another lighting setup. I want you to recreate the third type of lighting setup, and that is going to be bright. It's going to be warm. It's going to be cheery. It's going to look friendly. It's going to have soft shadows. As you can see here, very soft lighting. And again, with a render like this, again, you can pick apart real world photos, real world photography lighting, and also rendered lighting. So digital lighting setups. Looking at these little bubbles, good kind of indication of like, okay, well, there's definitely some kind of small round light over here, something on the bottom there. And you can kind of get a little bit of a hint as to how the lighting setup in the scene is by looking at the reflective objects in either a render or a real world photo. Okay, so that's your third type of lighting setup I want you to recreate. And then your fourth and final type of lighting setup I want you to create and apply to that shoe model is something that looks film noir. So remember, film noir is kind of like dramatic looking and also use those like shades, the shades casting a shadow, as you can see here. So I want you in this fourth lighting setup to use some type of gobo element to cast shadows in your scene. And so you can even see in this render, I think this is a render here, but it looks pretty, real life as well. You can see, okay, we got shadows on this side and we have the gobos from here. Try to think about, okay, where's the lighting setup here? You can see on this little shiny pit of this container, there's a little bit of specular highlight there. So where is that light coming from? How many lights are they using? I really hope that this exercise helps you pick apart renders and the good lighting setups that you see and learn how to recreate them. Because again, when you're learning something, it's okay to copy because you can really gain a lot of insight from other artists and how they light by trying to copy their setups and seeing what works, okay? So I really hope you have a lot of fun with this. From all of these different types of renders, I want you to render them out using Redshift. I want you to render them out as 1920 by 1080 PNG stills. And I want you to go ahead and submit them and remember all the different things that we covered. So I want you to light one light at a time and see what a single light's doing, using that key light first, then adding the fill, and then a rim if you need it, but painting with lights, knowing and thinking about each light and what the purpose serves from each light. And if you want some bonus points, you can render out a fifth image, a fifth render of this shoe of just your own setup. So you don't have to use any of the 4 mood boards that I added here, but you can kind of have your own creative freedom to do whatever you want. All right, so that's your task. You're gonna be a digital DP lighting expert in the world of CG, and I can't wait to see what you come up with and see your lighting setups. Good luck.